Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of FemFlex Friday, and today we have a very special theme for you, and one that is I'm very passionate about, and that's about plant-based diets and the impact this has on shape and performance when it comes to our sport, right? So in order to support this, we have two amazing pro athletes here with us. We have BREANA Wigley. She is an IFBB pro bikini, and then we have Asha Hadley, who is an IFBB pro women's bodybuilding. Ladies, welcome to our studio.
Yes, welcome. Thanks.
We are so excited to have you here, and we really want to see how this goes, because I know that, Asha, you are a registered dietitian and nutritionist as well, so you have that medical perspective. You're obviously also working with diets in your own prep, right?
Correct, yes.
And then we have BREANA, who is working, I know that you're a recipe creator, right?
Yeah.
You are also a coach, and you are working with plant-based diets as part of your prep, right?
Absolutely.
So, Linda, where should we start? Which end of it?
Wow, let's see. Let's start with Asha.
Okay.
Yeah, just especially in the sense of bodybuilders and protein being so important. I'm sure you deal with people who say they want to, they have a problem with protein. So let's start there.
Protein is key for building muscle. So when you have an athlete or a competitor or client who wants to go the plant-based route, vegan versus vegetarian, there's a whole spectrum there if we want to get into that too. You really have to be knowledgeable and flexible to work with that athlete. There's different amounts of concentrations of protein in those various protein sources, plants versus animals. So when you have somebody that wants to go plant-based versus including animal products, you really have to be able to count the macros and work with them to make sure they're getting the quality protein and enough protein with those protein sources.
Okay.
I'm really big on people being able to do what they want to do, unless their doctor prescribes something particular for them. So if they want to go plant-based, I really want to impart them or educate them with as much knowledge so they can know how to continue that way healthily, and whatever type of goals, whether it's physical fitness, just being healthy overall, they're able to do that successfully.
That's great.
So do you know any successful, or just, doesn't mean they have to be pro or walk away with the trophy, but bodybuilders that compete that are vegan or vegetarian?
Of course, Ms. Bree here is a very successful.
So how did you did you get to start your plant-based diet? What brought you there? And why did you stick to it?
Yeah, so I actually earned my pro card, my pro status, completely plant-based.
Oh, wow.
We did about a 6 to 8 week prep plant-based, and it was different. I was at first eating just eggs and, my egg whites and things of that nature. And I approached my coach and I was like, hey, I think I want to go completely vegan, plant-based. And she was like, okay, let's try it. Let's figure it out. And I had to do research. She did research. We came up with multiple different ways to get the protein because like you mentioned, that's important. That's how you build that muscle. And as a bikini competitor, of course, I didn't need a ton of muscle, but I still wanted to have good quality muscle. So I had to find protein sources that worked. And we were successful in earning my pro card. And I was like, I'm going to keep going. And I competed, 2 following years, on a completely plant-based diet after that.
So how did you start eating plant-based? What was the origin of this?
In 2013, I actually cut out all meats. I was fasting, so I did no meats, no sweets, no dairy, no white flours and things of that nature. After my fast was over, I was like, I think I can keep going. So that's 2013. And then I got into bodybuilding in 2015. I'm like, okay, I know the bodybuilding diet, after doing some research and stuff, it contains, your fish, your chicken, very specific.
Very specific. Lots of tilapia.
Yes, lots of tilapia, your steaks and things. And I was like, wait, but that goes against like what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
So now I have
right.
to pivot to see how I can be successful in bodybuilding and maintaining, you know, my plant-based lifestyle. So in 2017, I officially gave up all dairy, eggs. I hadn't been eating meat anyways, and we just kind of went from there. And now it's been 9 years total, no meat, and 5 years as an athlete, no meat, no dairy.
Wow, that's really amazing.
So do you feel a difference now, like a remarkable difference between the animal plant-based diets and plant-based diets?
Yeah, from what I can remember, when I first started, let go of eating animal products, I had a lot more energy. I was able to eat a lot more because I was eating like a lot of variety of vegetables, a lot of plant options, zucchini, squash, like filling up my bowls with kale and spinach, all the things. So that gave me natural energy to burn, and I was able to hit my goals as far as like during prep really easily, even to the point where my coach was like, okay, we're gonna give you more food, like you gotta keep eating because you're burning through, you know, everything as hard as I was training. So I felt a difference in energy, and I saw an instant reaction within my physique as well.
Okay. So what's the difference, like if you look at like your off season in comparison to when you are prepping, as far as the calorie or just the look of the diet? You know what I mean? Like, do you eat more calories, less calories, and the look of it?
Yeah, it's actually similar in some ways. I don't get to eat the vegan donuts when I'm on prep.
Okay.
And I do eat those when I'm not on prep.
Okay.
I don't do all the fun baking and stuff on prep. But calorie-wise, it's more so a lifestyle now, so I don't really see a huge difference. I'm not necessarily weighing and measuring everything when I'm not on prep. But when I'm on prep, it's down to like the ounce, you know, especially with the carbs and the protein, plant proteins that I would consume. Yeah.
So it's the combination of how many carbohydrates and just the look of it.
And the important part is with my protein, I had to pair like my quinoa with lentils and with peas. And some of the time you have to be mindful of that, especially when it comes to like maybe bloating and different things of that nature. So I would make sure I only had a specific amount at a certain time. But now when I'm not on prep, it's like, okay, I can like, you know, have my chickpeas and all my fun stuff piled into my bowl. Whereas on prep, it's like really particular in portion.
So Asha is like, it's very interesting what she just said, and I think the fact that she said I have to pair my quinoa right with my lentils. Is that related to the amino acid profile?
Yeah, I believe, I can't speak for her, but usually you have to be able to make complete proteins. Either per meal or within a certain time period to maximize, you know, making sure that you're getting enough of the quality complete protein for muscle building and maintenance.
I remember back in the day when I started, like maybe 20-something years ago, and then they were saying if you want to assimilate the protein from the beans, you have to take, what was it, 1 part beans and 3 parts rice?
Rice, usually, yeah.
So that was like, oh my God, that's a lot of carbs just to assimilate like 10 grams of protein.
Yeah.
That's a lot of them.
It's challenging, I think, and I have to commend any athlete that's competing as a vegan because you can get 20 grams of protein from a little bit of chicken, but when you're trying to get it from lentils and beans and vegetables and carbs, you know, it's a lot harder.
Absolutely.
How many grams of protein are right now in your diet? You are on season or off season right now?
I'm kind of in the middle.
Okay.
I'm making a slow transition out of my off season into my season.
So for how heavy are you? 200?
I'm about 218 right now.
Okay, that's a lot.
Good protein. Good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because you're in shape, so you got a lot of muscles, right?
Yep.
For 218, how many grams of protein do you eat right now?
I'm doing about a gram per pound. So it's a lot of protein. It's eating all day.
So if you were, let's just hypothetically go there. If you were to eat everything plant-based right now, how would you be able to get those?
I would probably go to some soy products because they don't have as much carbs in them. The other, I guess, challenging thing with a lot of plant-based protein sources is they are higher in carbs or they do have some carbs versus meat, which has 0. So protein shakes, plant-based protein shakes, soy-based products, probably more lentils and things like that I would have to include, and in larger amounts. I mean, my 5 ounces of chicken is not going to equate to 5 ounces of beans.
We're going to take a break and back, and then maybe you guys can share some of the recipes. Ooh.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
Back in our studio, Brianna, you were telling me about the tofu, right?
Yes.
Which is it's a soy-derived product, right? So all through my preps in my life as a bodybuilder, I always try to stay away from that. And the reason is because of the phytoestrogens, right? Which they say it just increases your own estrogen in your body. And I've read a lot of studies which say that most of the time, because we have so much soy in our modern diet, it's like a lot of the girls get into puberty faster. There's more weight issues with kids, right? So what is your view on that? Because you said you love tofu, right? And I'm afraid of tofu.
Yeah.
Right?
I know, a lot of people are, and that's like, that's just the stigma it has with tofu. However, just through research and my experience, I stick to organic sprouted tofu. The way it's fermented a little bit longer than your average soy product, so it breaks down a little differently in your body. Phytoestrogen isn't technically made up the same way as the estrogen that we have in our body. So I just did like a lot of research, and I just had to really monitor my body and see what really worked. But definitely sticking with the organic sprouted tofu helped me be able to digest it better, and I didn't have any reactions, and I avoid soy in other ways as well. So
so you don't have any soy milk or products like that?
No, not necessarily. Even down to like my, maybe if I have an English muffin or my breads and stuff, sometimes you can't find soy in those products, but I try to stick with sprouted products, natural and organic ingredients to avoid some of that added soy in other ways.
So is it difficult going out to eat or just trying to maneuver around? What is the life of a vegan?
I eat salad and French fries so much when I go out. It's to the point where I pack my own food sometimes. I mean, I do it. I used to do it on prep anyways.
Right.
Like, I'm not ashamed to carry a container around. But going out, it looks like salad and French fries a lot. And even you have to be mindful. Sometimes they don't necessarily get the difference between vegan and vegetarian. And I'm like, hey, I need a vegan option. And they're like, oh, you can try this. I'm like, it's eggs loaded on that. Like, that's not vegan, so don't tell people it's vegan. But I just have to explain, what my dietary needs are. Sometimes I say it's life or death. I'm like, if you put anything, I might die. Otherwise, they'll
You're pretending.
Right, I'm pretending, but otherwise, they'll offer certain dressings and things for salads, and it's like I have to really ask and dig deep. Like, can you ask the chef, like, what's in this? But the good thing at nicer restaurants, the chefs are always flexible. I found, like, they're like, oh yeah, we can saute you up veggies in olive oil or whatever you like. So. If it's not a nice restaurant, I'm eating salad and French fries. If it's somewhere nice, the chef usually kind of caters to me.
Yeah, now that word like vegan, vegetarian, I remember coming up, I clearly knew, I know what a vegetarian is. And then I kind of remember when they started saying vegan. So that's like, how long have we used the word or the description vegan? When you were studying nutrition, dietitian, was that like, did that just come on the scene?
No,
It's been around
we
forever.
learned about that and the different, I guess, subtypes of vegetarianism. Because you have a vegan who does not eat any animal products at all. And then you have certain types of vegetarians. You have pescatarians, which eat fish. You have usually it's ovo-lacto vegetarians who do include eggs and dairy in your diet. And then whatever type of personal combination you want to make out of those. You have fruitarians, you have flexitarians.
Then you have raw vegan, so they don't eat
raw vegans. That's gotta be challenging. How are you gonna eat everything raw?
Right. Yeah, I found eating raw vegetables for me just don't digest.
It's probably that's you would get digestive issues, right? Because of all the fiber, and then when you have so much, your stomach cannot really keep up with all of that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Do you eat tofu at all, Asha?
No, I did have a period in my time where I was vegetarian.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so it was way before my competing days.
So you were not lifting at all? You're not a bodybuilder?
I was exercising and running a lot, so I was down in the maybe 130s at that time.
130? Oh, wow. Wow, you're approaching 100 over that time.
Yes. And I did have tofu on a regular basis. I would do a lot of like salads and French fries if I ate out. And I wasn't vegan, so I would occasionally do eggs or some dairy products. But I ate that way for about 2 years, and then I slowly started adding animal products back into my diet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's interesting. You said French fries, and I'm like, French fries, and like in our industry, you say French fries, it's like, oh my goodness, like that means like gaining weight, like fast. So how many French fries?
Oh, how many?
Right.
Two? Oh my gosh, no. I like portion control. One thing that I've carried over into my life outside of prep is like carb cycling was very key in my prep because we didn't want to like continue to pile those carbs on. So I would eat a high carb day, then a medium, and then a low, and just kind of keep that cycle. And they kept the balance.
Okay.
So that's really how I live my life now. So I'm like, if I know I'm gonna have like fries and my vegan donut, I mean, in the morning I need to maybe have a smoothie. Then for dinner, maybe do like a salad loaded with veggies and things of that nature. So kind of keeping the balance. So I don't eat a ton of fries.
cycling.
Yes.
So that's something that I was interested in to see how does a carb cycling works for a bodybuilder, right? And how does it work for you? You're a bikini competitor, right?
Yep.
Obviously, when I'm thinking of it as a way smaller amount of muscle, right? The bikini is the smallest division.
Yep.
Women's bodybuilding is the biggest division, right? So Asha, we know like when it's time to cut down, how do we do that? We do it with carb manipulation, right? And I feel that when you are on a vegan or vegan diet, right, that would be really hard, I think, because there are so many carbs in everything you're eating, no?
Absolutely. That's when I lean into that tofu kick. And I have found a couple of plant-based products that I like. However, you have to watch the sodium in some of that pre-made things. So on my lower carb days, I do lean into my tofu, and I just have mounds of salad. I like to build like simple salads, my base, my tofu, and mustard all over it. That's like some of my staples for prep. So
do you keep fats in your diet when you're on a cutting phase?
I do keep a little bit, and I think I really just listen to the coach. I just head in, whatever he tells me to do, I do. But there's usually a little bit of fats in my diet. We've found that it works for me. Keeping those in.
And you, BREANA?
Yes, absolutely. I found my staples. My avocados, my go-to. My walnuts or either cashews, and I just stick within those. It's easier on prep that way when you have like your picks, your staples, work with that.
Well, it seems like an expensive, first of all, organic. I mean, you guys must go shopping. You shop like, how many times a week? Because organic, it goes bad fast, right? I mean, as far as it doesn't have all the preservatives and all of that in it.
Yeah. So I usually shop on a weekly basis just because you don't want to, have too many foods that spoil. But I found my staples again, like my zucchini, my kale, my spinach. And anything outside of that is like, rare. But once I find my staples, I kind of stick with that. So it doesn't go bad.
Okay. So when you say your staples, that's like like me talking about my steak and my
your steak and chicken,
right? Breast.
But I'm like avocados, cashew.
And obviously you found a variety of ways to prepare it or cook it to make it.
Absolutely. The air fryer became my best friend. Like when those became popular, I air fried all my veggies. I air fried all my tofu. It's easier to prep.
Okay.
And just pop it in, and then I do like my quinoa, my rice, and my carbs. When necessary. Yeah.
And how do you give them taste? Right?
Yes.
How do you use herbs? Do you use spices?
Yes, I use a lot of herbs. I love Dill. I like dill on my veggies. Oregano, rosemary, all the herbs. We watch the sodium, of course, but liquid aminos are really, really good. It absorbs really well into, your tofu or in your veggies. Nutritional yeast is very, that's another staple. I sprinkle it on everything. It's like little gold flakes of magic.
Use that too.
Yes, it's fortified with B12, so that's helpful to the plant-based diet. So incorporating a lot of spices and herbs and yellow mustard on everything.
So let's say, Asha, I have this question. Like, if you were to switch overnight, let's say somebody's like, okay, you have to eat a week, the same amount of protein, carbs, and everything, switching to a vegan diet. How would you do that? 315. How much did you say grams of protein? 250.
Yeah, about 215. I would. Oh gosh.
Would you eat tofu again?
I would probably go get tofu. Right now, I have the luxury of having a decent amount of carbs, so I'd probably do a lot of beans and lentils.
Okay.
I like a lot of plant-based foods and vegetables and things like that. So there's some vegetables that have decent amounts of protein in them: broccoli, Brussels sprouts, mushrooms, things like that. I would definitely include a lot of, other than just trying to calculate and make sure I'm getting enough.
So what food do you eat where you feel full? Like, I know certain, like, if I eat something fried, I feel full. If I eat bread, I feel full. And when I think of, like, vegan and vegetarian, and when I eat a meal that's from that group, it's, I always feel, like, hungry. It's like I ate air or something. I'm eating air, So is there something, like, in that you eat when you say, oh, I can't wait to eat this? Like oatmeal. I know oatmeal makes me feel full.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I load my oatmeal up with hemp seeds and raspberries and blueberries on top. So I love my oats, definitely. And I do like my almond butter on top. So that's really filling. Other than that, I use salad or spring mix, kale, arugula as a base for everything. Like, if I'm having, I'm typically going to have a salad with my food because it's just going to kind of fill you up with veggies. And then I'll be ready to eat again in like 2 hours.
Okay, that's a good thing.
So I eat more frequently, yes.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else. Every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on trifecta.
We're back with the vegan experience. So we're talking about food, and let's talk about the workout. How does the vegan vegetarian diet affect the workout? Let's start with you,
Yes.
BREANA.
Okay. So for me, we noticed a huge plunge in my weight, which is great when you're cutting. Like, that's what you want to do. But you also want to keep that muscle. So for me, my workouts, I had conditioning where it would look like maybe some HIIT workout for about an hour, then cardio for maybe about 30 minutes. We had to drill that cardio all the way back because I was burning extremely, like all of my muscle away pretty much. So I just kept my conditioning, my HIIT workouts, my plyometrics, as well as my weightlifting, routine. But it looked, we cut back on cardio a lot because my coach was like, you are tiny. I was like maybe 98 pounds, which it happened pretty fast.
So I have a question related to that. To Asha, from your job, from that perspective of a nutritionist, do you feel that she's burning so much through the carbs because there is no animal protein source there? Would that make sense?
I don't know that it really matters whether it's animal or plant protein.
Okay.
It's probably, just the calories or the macros in general and her metabolism.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of constantly manipulating things and watching how the body responds and then continuing to manipulate the carbs.
Because it's like when she said that I had to take away my cardio, and I'm like, you're eating so many carbs, and I would think that you would have to increase it, right? Yeah. But she had to cut it.
Yeah. Well, I was using all the carbs that I had for my lifting sessions. So, at that point, I would have, my lentils and my zucchini, my squash, my spinach. But some meals will only be like tofu and spinach. That's not a lot of, calories.
Do you count carbs from vegetables as well as carbs, or just the carbs from the starches as carbs?
We do consider them. However, the impact is not necessarily the same as eating, a bowl of spinach versus a bowl of rice. We do consider them, especially when I'm on a low carb day, because we want to make sure we're still staying low. But not necessarily. Spring mix doesn't nearly equate to.
How about you, Asha? Do you count the carbs from vegetables?
I don't count my vegetables.
Okay, I didn't count mine either. I was like, I got all these muscles. I'm not counting. They don't even matter. They just like filling up my stomach.
You'll burn them away.
So you only count the carbs from the starches.
Correct. Yeah.
And what's the lowest you go on the carbs?
So I don't go. I have gone like 0.
Yeah.
And the last prep we kept in a decent amount. It was maybe like, I would say 2 or 3 ounces per couple of meals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've gone zero carbs?
Yeah.
That's
So
zombie mode.
You probably never did it, right?
No. Oh my God. I'm like, no, I need a rice cake.
So I'm really curious to see how does Asha your peak week before the show look like, and Brianna, how does yours look like?
So my peak week before a show, there's not too much protein manipulation. That pretty much stays where it has gotten to. Fats are manipulated because carbs are usually lowered a little bit during that time. So it's cutting the carbs, playing with the fats, it's checking in constantly, again, seeing how the body responds to those changes and kind of working with that. Different types of carbs too affect differently, so we'll play with those.
Okay.
Right, and it's interesting because it's similar, same exact process. I just use different sources for my protein. I don't necessarily use some of those pre-made plant-based options. I stick with, because they're high in salt, and during peak week we manipulate in that area. But everything's pretty much similar to Asha. My fats go up, carbs come down for a day or two. In the mornings is when I have my oats, and then for the rest of the day, nothing. But
and then do you carb up too?
Yes, I do carb up the night before, which is great. It's my favorite part.
What do you like to carb up on?
Chipotle.
What?
I get a huge Chipotle bowl, and it has like everything: rice, beans, sauteed veggies, and the corn mixture at Chipotle. And I like down it, and I wake up feeling revived.
Wow. How about you, Asha? What's your carb up?
I do not get Chipotle. Right before a show, we can do like a burger or something, but usually it's just more rice or rice cakes. Not nearly as exciting.
So your total calories for your
On prep or off?
yes. Let's say off prep, and then tell me.
So we stay within maybe 1,300 to 1,500 calories
Per day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But I'm burning way more than that, so the deficit it's a really big deficit. But off prep, I don't know. I don't calculate.
And so
I just eat.
Right. So you're now, you can like eye it. You can just like look at it without. I see. But in the beginning, you had to use a scale. Okay.
Especially when it came to weighing out those beans and things, because they kind of double in size after you cook them. The labeling, I make everything pretty much fresh in batches, so I don't do like a lot of canned beans or things of that nature because they have sodium in it. But sometimes those labels on there with weight and serving size kind of vary, so I just stick with dried beans. I cook them myself, dried quinoa, make everything myself, and weigh it and measure it. So now I kind of know what to look for.
Okay. And you, Asha, as far as calories?
Calories, we don't pay attention to calories. We really focus a lot on macros, but in the past, when I've looked at my calories, they've gone down, I'd probably say as low as like 1,700.
Wow, that's low.
On my very low, baseline diet. Off season, it seems like sky's the limit, so try to take advantage of it.
But as long as you can. I remember the days when I cannot eat anymore. Like I was done eating so much food, right?
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
And then so much protein that you have to eat, right, from an animal source, and then it's harder, it takes longer to digest. So, but then, it's time to eat again.
So you're
Right.
like shoveling it in. But with me, I'm like, is it time yet? Because I'm starving like every hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Still, I eat on that schedule.
Well, it's been like lately, since I'm not competing anymore, I have been toying a little bit with this idea. I want to see is there a difference in the way the body feels, right? So I've had a few weeks here and there where I just ate vegan, right? So going to Sprouts, right? I go into this portion where they have like all the milk, the milk substitutes and so on and so forth. So I wanted to ask you about this because I look in there, and then on the back of the product, the list of ingredients, it's huge. And I'm looking like names that I don't recognize with a lot of syllables in them, like this long of a name. And then I'm wondering, like, isn't it better just to get something that says whey and salt?
Right.
So how about these highly, highly processed meats and milk substitutes products? What's happening there?
Yeah, so I personally try to stay away from that. Like I mentioned, I like to make my things fresh at home. I know what's in them, what's in the ingredients. I also know that like sometimes those options, they're great, they're helpful, they're convenient, but sometimes it's not what's always best when you're in a thriving plant-based diet.
Yeah.
I try not to buy anything that I can't pronounce, like the ingredients. If I can't pronounce them, I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. So it's true. It's a lot of different chemicals in.
So some of those are not really like when you look and there's a sausage there, and when you look and you see it's pea and lentils, and then a bunch of these names that I don't recognize. But then it really tastes like meat. I'm not kidding. It tastes like sausage. How is it possible?
And I see like between the two of us, like European versus American, like just we kind of eat junky. You know what I mean? Like we put all kind of crap in our food, and then when I got the opportunity to go over to Europe and watch and experience how you guys eat, and I see the difference in even being here, because I quickly like sugar substitutes. She's like, oh no, I don't touch any sugar substitutes. She wants the real sugar, the real thing. And I'm like, wow.
Well, I did find the coconut sugar, which is amazing. You get the calories, but it's not as chemically processed, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You'll be surprised. Some of those labels are like kind of scary, and it's almost like I'd rather just not, just not eat that type
So
of
you
stuff.
also stick to the more like a simpler and the more natural
plant-based,
plain
and that's
approach.
why I always mention plant-based, because otherwise it'll be like vegan, chemical-based.
But that's the point. Like, if you don't want the meat, then why are you replacing it with something that tastes like meat, right? It's cheating.
right. Like,
Well, there is a market for that, so why not, right?
And people know, like in the vegan industry, they know we want familiar foods. We want the ice creams. We want the dairy cheese and things of that nature. But it's like, what are you going to sacrifice? Either eating those chemicals or not.
So I don't know if we asked. Are you a vegan because of something against like animal rights, or is it just the way it makes
was
you
more
feel?
so personal. It was just more of a personal. Now the benefit of what it does for the earth and animals, that's
It's
a
great.
plus.
It's a plus.
But it was more so of a personal decision.
Okay.
And BREANA, I know that you also coach athletes, right? What divisions do you coach?
Mostly bikini, because that's what I'm familiar with. And really it's more so just guiding them. A lot of athletes are worried when they first, decide that they want to take the vegan route, but I show them, it's
also, you just coach vegan athletes.
Only vegan. Yes, because that's what I'm familiar with. That's what I've studied. That's what,
That's interesting.
I've experienced. So that's where I can help. And it's more so guiding them, showing them the options that they have. They can most times come to me with their macros, so we figure out how we can meet those macros with what food sources.
Okay, so obviously you're a great example, and I have seen quite a few bikini competitors out there on Instagram that are having a plant-based diet, right? So obviously it is possible, not only possible, but it's also successful, right? When it comes to more muscles, like the heavier divisions, like the heaviest one is the women's bodybuilding division. Do you know of any athletes that are any female bodybuilders that are Asha that are vegans. Have you seen any athletes trying to get on stage and get that competitive form? Do you think it's even achievable for this level of competitivity?
I personally do not know of any vegan bodybuilders, female bodybuilders.
Okay.
You do a Instagram search and you can find athletes who are competing vegan, but I don't see any at the very top levels that are vegan. And like I said before, it's difficult. I commend any athlete who's going to, compete in a sport where protein is something that it's going to be paramount in your diet.
So do you think that the animal source is it's giving a different look to the muscle compared to the plant source, or what do you think it is?
It's definitely a possibility. I can't speak on it for certain, but there's obviously a difference between plants and animals and the types of proteins and other types of vitamins and nutrients that are in them. So it is possible to look a little different. But I think, if you want to do it, you put your mind to it, you do the research, you work with the right types of people that can help guide you and keep you healthy, you could probably do it. I don't see why not.
So you think you might run the risk of not being healthy? Is there a way you can do a diet this way and end up being sick?
Well, with veganism and sometimes vegetarianism, it's not as common as veganism. There are certain nutrients with meat products that you don't get. So you do have to usually supplement more calcium, zinc, vitamin B12. And like she mentioned, there's a lot of ways to get those, the nutritional yeast, just supplements, things like that.
Absolutely.
So those are things to be aware of also.
Okay.
Wow, balance. So when you talk about some good meal prep or recipes, yes.
That is my forte. I love all things. I had to get creative when I first became vegan because I wanted food that was familiar to me. So I made a lot of errors, but now I have a lot of success when it comes to recipes. One recipe that I love, especially because it works during prep, are my oatmeal pancakes. I know a lot of athletes, you just use your egg whites and your oatmeal and you have a pancake.
Well, you don't have egg whites.
No, exactly. So you got to figure out a way to make those pancakes rise or, hold together at least and taste flavorful. So for me, I use a mixture of almond milk and apple cider vinegar because that's going to have a reaction within the pancakes and a little bit of baking powder to make the pancakes kind of rise and hold together, and oatmeal, and that's literally it. So 4 ingredients, and you can have the same pancake just. So
you're not using baking soda?
No, baking powder.
Baking powder.
Yes. That's what's going to kind of make it rise. Give it a little fluff to it. You can't really get much fluff with oatmeal, but it does something for you when you're in prep and you want like a pancake. Yes, so apple cider vinegar and almond milk acts as an agent, a buttermilk agent, to hold your baked goods together.
So how did you learn that or discover that? By accident, or did you just
I was doing some research, probably like on Pinterest back in 2013. I was like running out of options for breakfast, and I was like, okay, I'll find something. And then I manipulated it. I removed like the sugar and different things to make it prep friendly, and it works.
It's interesting when she says she runs out of options, because I think that's one of the things with me. It's like if I run out of an option, I don't have that much time. Like I'm just gonna eat something. Like, what's in front of me, So I think that's impressive.
Absolutely,
that you're committed to it. And
and I did have one more question from a dietitian's perspective, right? And that was I read all the time everywhere that when you have the animal source, right, in your diet, your body's reaction is an inflammation, right? So what is the truth of that?
There's some animal products that promote more inflammation than others.
Like what?
Tends to be more red meat and sometimes pork, and more traditionally raised, so not things that aren't grass-fed or grass-finished. Tend to be more inflammatory.
And why is that?
I think it's just how the cattle is raised on that high grain diet. They tend to be a lot fattier than the leaner grass-fed and grass-finished cattle or beef products. Same with pork and things like that. So also it's what they're giving the animals to grow, hormones, antibiotics, things like that also. So your less inflammatory products are going to be more seafood, more poultry, to some degree than the beef and pork or the red meat.
Okay, so then you eliminate that inflammation completely with a plant-based diet.
It definitely helps. I mean, if you're looking to fight inflammation, I tell my patients and clients more plant-based diet. So add more plants, minimize the protein, or the animal products in your diet. Definitely it has a benefit for anti-inflammatory factors.
This is great. This is great for the health portion of it. So it sounds to me, by what we've been talking, that it is, as a competitive athlete, a plant-based diet is way easier to do for a smaller division, right? Than for a bigger division that requires more and more muscles and all of that 3D and all of that effect that we're looking for. So that's what I thought. That's why I invited you girls too here.
Yeah, interesting, because our bodies, this is about the physique versus when you look at performance competitors, like if you're a runner, you can eat a lot of carbohydrates and a variety of just different things. So it is definitely more of a challenge when you're talking about manipulating the physique, muscle, body fat, and all of that. So this is a very interesting topic. And
it's all about knowledge and probably, knowing how to put everything in its place and how to choose your sources and everything. And we want to thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us today.
Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. This was a pleasure. And thank you guys for being here with us today. And we'll see you on our next episode of FemFlex Friday.